Hello guys, welcome back to the channel, the Manga Man here, and today we're talking about chapter 1009 of One Piece. In the UK it's the bank holiday weekend for Easter. I just got up a bit ago, it's 10 AM UK time, the translation or scanlation has been out. As per usual, please support the official release, and all the links will be in the description below, which include my subreddit as well as my Twitter for you to follow if you would like to get notified of whenever I do my releases moving forward. But without further ado, let's get into this review. So. The chapter at large was pretty interesting. The main important thing to bear in mind is there's no break next week, so we will basically get an answer to a few of the questions here very quickly, given that we know there's no break. So let's touch on a few things. The first thing, chapter is called Hell. The battlefield on top of Onigashima is probably like hell, like Kid mentioned last chapter, I believe, or the chapter before. The first thing that I wanted to touch on was the whole thing with Orochi. So Orochi essentially runs into the Scabbards, the remaining Scabbards, and he's assisted by Fukarakujo, who is essentially now being lined up to fight Raizo, which is fine. Because that's kind of what they were destined to do, Shinobi, Ninja. So that's going to be an interesting fight. We'll see how that pans out. We'll basically see how strong Fukarakujo is, and how their skills match up. Now, this whole thing with Orochi being alive, ultimately what I think the situation is with this is to do with his ability, which is, Yamato no Orochi, Devil Fruit, legendary story, mythology, and him being an 8-headed dragon or serpent type Kaido being. Now, according to this panel, because we see that the Scabbards take care of the heads and they behead him when he falls, it's not confirmed that he's dead, but from the panels, unless I've counted incorrectly, they chop off 6 heads, which I'm assuming he transformed into 6 to deal with the 6 that were there, not Raizo. So when you think about it from that perspective, and he's had the 7th head chopped off by Kaido, ultimately I think because he's supposed to be based on Yamato no Orochi, he's an 8-headed being. He's got 1 head left that needs to be beheaded, so he's probably going to be alive on the back of that, and is going to get beheaded one more time, hopefully by the future Shogun Momo. So that's the first thing I wanted to get out of the way. The second thing is pretty much what this chapter is really about. It's about the battle upstairs, and there's a few things that generally happen here. So the first thing with this is the this combined attack that has multiple names. It's pronounced Hakai, but essentially it's been translated as the sovereignty of the sea, which essentially also means destruction as well, depending on how you read it or how you translate it. So it's to do with the destructive capability based on the translators know, and the sovereignty of the sea being Yonko. But them having a combined attack, and the people that are there, Kid, Killer, Law, Luffy, Zoro, and I believe it's I think it's Killer who says it, that they won't be able to dodge this, and for Zoro to come in and even momentarily try to block this attack, or just move it to the point where the rest could get away, that split second, is a big feat in itself. It kind of reminds me of that time in the Paramount War or the Big War where basically Mihawk tries to test the distance between him and Whitebeard, and Jozu blocks it with his devil fruit, a bit of diamond, and throws it into the sky practically. It reminds me of that, really. Of course, there's still a big level difference between 2 Yonkos combined ability and Zoro, but you can't happen to not think and wonder how potentially strong Zoro is going to be by the end of the series. Now, admittedly, he is injured off this, and it does take its toll, and you can see that in this chapter, but the fact that he's able to do something like this does bode well for him end of series or future development in the series. So that's the first thing I want to touch on. So we do see like an aftermath scene where it looks like most of them on the floor, and they're like thanking Zoro, and he goes, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, kind of. So yeah, it has taken its toll, but then Luffy goes to attack Kaido, and he looks like he's gonna do a red, probably something related to a bird of some kind. And Kaido dodges, and Luffy's laughing, saying, "Oh, why are you dodging?" And Zoro, Kaido attacks him back, saying, "Because it's gonna hurt." What this ultimately means is, if you think about the story post time skip, the major battles he's had, he's been able to develop his Kenbunshin no Haki, which means he's able to work on his ability to evade, and now he's kind of worked on his upping his attack and his defense in a sense with the armament Haki and the levels he's developed there. But at the same time, what you've got also bear in mind is he has to work on his physical strength. I think someone mentioned this. I think it was Soy Seven Mage, where although he's got the capability to attack Kaido, he doesn't have the physical stats or speed. So this might be a thing where he needs to go into Snake Man mode to boost his speed, to be able to evade better, because he's got the capability to see what's happening, but he doesn't have the physical stats to back up that objective or that thought or that wish. And the flip side to that, to attack him, he needs the speed as well. So it might be him going to Snake Man at some point and taking advantage of his newfound abilities. And down the line, it ultimately means that, we will see him develop his physical stats. The next bit of the chapter pretty much is to do with Big Mom. So, Big Mom. Ultimately, the rest of the chapter kind of leaves the fate of Big Mom's outcome, I guess, kind of open. It doesn't really give you an answer, and I'll explain why now. So the team with the combo effect pretty much do a really good job of separating Big Mom from her homies, and this starts off with Kid basically building a metal box to trap Zeus in. Now he's trapped, he's away, attack, shambles, everything else in between. This leads Zoro to attack Prometheus, and he cuts him a few times, and then he does that same attack of the sixth path that he did to the squid under the sea in the Fishman arc, and this leads Napoleon to get attacked by Killer. I found that funny. He's like, "Oh, leave me alone, I'm just a normal sword." I found that hilarious because obviously they start panicking, and this distracts Big Mom enough, who's like, "Do you think I'm gonna fall and be defeated just because you've dealt with these people?" And she lands a really juicy punch on Killer, so he's gonna be feeling this in the morning if he's not feeling this already, which leads him to do like a rappel attack that pushes him into the sky, or her into the sky, or off the ground, to get hit by a boulder, to then essentially fall off the island. Now what this ultimately has done is separate Big Mom and Kaido, which makes the defeat of Kaido, or the dealing of Kaido, a little bit easier. But it's going to be one of those where it's wishful thinking, because realistically they're building up the stakes still at this point. There's going to be a point where Kaido's going to take over, for it to seem like the end is nigh, for them to be this turnaround in a narrative storytelling point of view. What's going to happen with Big Mom? Ultimately, a few things are going to happen. Now, she's fallen off the top of the island. That doesn't necessarily mean she's completely fallen off the island, so unless it's just the skull that's floating, and not bits of attached island to the skull, I ultimately think she could easily just fall onto the island and barely survive. The second thing I think is a possibility is that she's being followed by the Big Mom pirates, because ultimately now that they're in the sky, there's nowhere for them to get onto Onigashima, and essentially potentially they're just following her. And bearing in mind, Onigashima is heading to Wano, so there isn't that much of a journey. It is probably something, but not that much considering. So she could easily end up on the Big Mom pirates ships, or just drift to Wano again. It'd be funny if she just ended up in Elbaf somehow. But anyway, that's pretty much the chapter, and it does look like it's going to continue next week. So we'll find out what's going to happen next. Ultimately, the Scabbards have dealt with Orochi. He's probably going to be back. The people upstairs are going to be dealing with Kaido, But Zoro, even after the whole dealing with Prometheus thing, looks to be damaged, and Big Mom has fallen off the top. That's pretty much it for the chapter. I hope you enjoy. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. As always, all links will be in the description below. Take everything with a pinch of salt, and I'll see you next time. Peace.